Hi, this is Maureen, and you're listening to the audio version of my novel Run. I hope you enjoy this Irish family saga, and thanks for listening.
Run is a work of fiction by Maureen. All rights are reserved. This podcast is intended for mature audiences. If you are ever in dire need of a good luck charm, legend has it that the holy grail of lucky horseshoes is one that comes from a gray mare's hind feet. Kentucky Derby Museum. Episode 5. The Racing Today Luncheon was being held at the Louisville Arms, a favorite haunt of Max and his buddies. The lobby was filled with the traditional decorations of a Kentucky Derby celebration. Red roses in tall vases and the scent of fresh mint and bourbon lingering in the air. As a nominated one to watch, I was expected to spend the event schmoozing with the press. They had even comped a room for the night to hold interviews. But the thought left me feeling nauseous. I checked in at the front desk while Max chatted with the owner, Nancy Armstrong, who was also one of his poker pals. Max made it his business to know everyone in and around this town. The Arms had been built during Prohibition, a hideaway for the city's big shots as they tried to escape their wives in the Women's Christian Temperance Union. It appeared not much had changed in almost 100 years. 39 of Kentucky's 120 counties remained dry. Max had told me once that a honeycomb of tunnels covered the city and were so confusing they often trapped the Prohibition agents looking to snag shipments. Of course, the bodies were never found. The Arms had kept its charm and its secrets well over the years and was bustling with Derby visitors. The older men walked in looking like they had stepped off a PGA tour, their polo shirts and dress shorts neatly pressed. Young women, ready for a day of shopping, were armed with oversized designer bags, and they moved in small clusters across the lobby, laughing and waving their arms as they shared private jokes. Max said his goodbyes to Yancey and picked up our bags. He wasn't the kind of man to let anyone do what he could do himself, but he slipped the bellman a 20 anyway. When we stepped into the elevator, we were alone for the first time that day. He held up a fan of tickets, waving them at me. "Horseman's Ball is on Saturday night," he said, "and you're coming with me this year." No thanks. His face fell. "We'll have a great time. You'll go off and smoke cigars with your tucked-up cronies, while I'm left with a bunch of women I can't stand. That's not my idea of fun." Held on the last Saturday in April, a week before the Derby, the Horseman's Ball was a private black-tie gala. The only way in was as a guest of honor of one of the horse owners. At $50,000 for a pack of 10 tickets, the privilege came at a cost, too. Max grew desolate, and I decided to try a different tact. "Max, the work you do for the industry is so admirable. There would be families on the street, crippled by hospital and funeral cost, if you didn't raise the money you do." Max's grandfather had created a fund that awarded grants to the jockeys, grooms, and stable hands who didn't have a way to pay for rent or other expenses if they were injured on the job. It was a far more dangerous business than outsiders knew, and if you didn't work, you didn't get paid. A member of Max's family always helped to manage the fund, and this year Max was the chairman of the board. It was a big deal for him. "The ball is your big night, and I want you to enjoy it." "Don't shine me on," he said, glaring. "If you don't want to come, then I'll just have to get over it, won't I?" I swallowed my guilt. It was hard to say no to those blue eyes. "And remember, I have plans Saturday night. The girls will be here tomorrow." My boarding school roommates would soon arrive for our annual get-together. Megan Jeffries, Jordan Wilson, and I had shared a triple at the Emma Willard Academy for Girls back in the 90s. From the moment we had met, we adopted the Celtic knot, no beginning or end, as the symbol of our friendship. As scholarship kids, we had been outcasts from the first day of freshman orientation, and while we never felt we belonged at the school, we certainly knew we belonged together. By any standard, we had turned out okay. Megan worked for the FBI, Jordan had an amazing job in fashion, and I had 2 horses running in the Derby. The girls were the closest thing I had to family, besides Max. I was so excited to see them, but I couldn't think about that right now. I needed to get through the obligatory media nonsense so I could track down Pops and Mickey, my actual family. I handed Max the original skeleton key, and he opened the door. Reminiscent of the era in which it had been built, the suite was dripping with 20s charm and glamour. Art Deco scones dotted the walls, and the long silk drapes and rich silver upholstery left me wondering if I had stepped onto the set of The Great Gatsby. But this was real. The suite had living and dining rooms, as well as 2 bedrooms, complete with private baths and separate walk-ins. In front of the windows, overlooking the city, was a table bearing an enormous bouquet of red roses, more fitting for a hotel lobby than a suite. "Well, that was a giant waste of money," I said. "They should know the only roses that count are the ones in the winter's garland." "I've heard the paper is having financial trouble," Max said. "They probably want to impress the media." "Typical Derby behavior. Pretend you're wealthy when you're praying you can get out of Dodge alive." Besides the flowers was a gift basket of everything Kentucky, from Benedictine spread to Derby pie. At the center sat a bottle of Woodford Reserve, the official bourbon of the race. Tied around its neck was a lucky gold horseshoe from Churchill Downs, pointed up. Finally, a tradition I can live with, I pulled the bourbon out of the basket and handed the bottle to Max. He hated to drink alone, but I had to hit the showers. "I'll get the ice." Minutes later, a steady stream of hot water was washing away the tension of the day. I could feel my hair twisting into a curl from the steam, but I didn't care. I was exhausted. Pops and Mickey had gone missing, and the punk had muscled his way into my life. I had even gotten my first ticket in years from that smug Kentucky state trooper. My secrets were not maintaining their orbit, and if I didn't watch out, one of them would land, like a meteorite crashing down to earth. Now, when I wanted to sleep for a week, I had to put on a pretty face for the entire elite racing community. What would they think of me if they knew the truth? A family of crooks and travelers with too many secrets to count. A breeder who left the stables and drove for hours through the night to find random studs in seedy bars. It was tragic. My internal interrogation was interrupted by a knock on the door. I grabbed a towel off the rack and tucked the top across my cleavage. Max was standing there with a glass of bourbon and a robe. His eyes slipped up my body. "Nice outfit." I grabbed the glass from his hand and huffed past. "We're late, and you're the guest of honor, Bridie." "You don't know that for certain." His chuckle was warm and deep, curling around me. "I think the penthouse gives it away, if the roses don't." I got dressed and put on some light makeup. My hair, however, was another story. A big, red, burning bush. The curl had made it unmanageable, so I did the only thing I could, and I pulled it back. As we rode down the elevator, our unfinished conversation raised its annoying head. "The girls can come too," Max said. "They'll love the ball." "It's an owner's ball, and none of us are owners," I said, "including me." When Max went on to argue, I cut him off. "This isn't your Cinderella story. I'm not going to the horseman's ball as the hired help on the prince's arm. Now can we please just get this luncheon over with for your father, so that I can go and track down my father?" If you have enjoyed this episode of Run and wish to support our storytelling, please share with a friend and visit us at runpodcast.com. Thanks for listening. Run is an original work of fiction by Maureen. It is a registered work with the Writers Guild of America, and Maureen holds the sole rights to the copyright. This podcast is for your entertainment only, and all rights are reserved. This material may not be published, broadcast, rewritten, or redistributed in whole or in part without the express written permission of Maureen. All characters appearing in this work are fictitious. Any resemblance to real persons, living or dead, is purely coincidental. Content advisory. This story is intended for mature audiences and contains violence, language, and the occasional sexual activity, so be warned.